Hello everybody, it's Tom here with you. Welcome to Mystery Trail, and this is part 2 of My Haunted Street. If you haven't seen the first video that I filmed a couple of years ago, you need to go back. I'll put a link down there. You need to go back and probably watch that first, so you'll have a better understanding of what's about to be discussed in this video about the current place where I reside and the strange happenings that have gone on here. So let's start off the bat. When I first moved here, an incident took place that I didn't talk about in the first part because I really wasn't ready to reveal. It's a very, very creepy and very personal incident that I've told very few people, but I'm going to recount it now as best as I can. So I hadn't lived here maybe even a month, and I got a note that was placed on the door here by apparently a woman who claimed to be a health care, a census worker of some sort. And she left a phone number and everything. Said I needed to call her, that this was mandatory since I just moved here. Now, how anybody knew that I was a new resident, I have no idea. And I was determined to not fool with it. I don't really care about government censuses and that type of thing necessarily. But I think that somehow, I didn't have a phone here at the time, a landline, and cell phones at the time weren't really common. Didn't have a cell phone yet. But somehow she contacted me again. It's been a long time ago, so I can't really remember exactly what happened, but I got another notice from her that I needed to contact her. So I finally just got tired of the pestering, and I called her and I set up an appointment to talk to her. So one night, it was about dusk, she drove up and stopped by, and she was not a particularly attractive woman, but then again, she wasn't unattractive either. I was in my late 20s and she probably appeared to be in her mid 30s at the time. Dark haired, I mean, just average looking. And she had this big smile on her face though. She had this smirk and it was really weird. So I had her in and she sat down on the couch with me, and she pulled out like a clipboard or whatever and some papers. And I can't remember what her name was. I wish I'd taken better notes at the time. But she said something along the lines of, well, let's begin. Now, you don't have to answer any of these questions if you don't feel comfortable answering them, but I have to ask them anyway. I said, okay, no big deal. I have nothing to hide. And they were very, very personal, really odd questions that these days for sure nobody would ever ask. And it even seemed odd at the time. But anyway, she said, she asked how many people lived here, and I said, just me. She said, so you live by yourself? Are you married? I said, no. Divorced? No. Then she said something about like, how many people have you had sex with in the past year or two? Something like that. Then the next one was, have you ever had sex with a man? I was like, no, none of the above, none of this. She said, have you ever been diagnosed with HIV? I said, no. And, or maybe have you ever been tested? And I was like, no, none of this. I said, I'm not concerned. And a couple, are you a drug user, alcohol, smoking, all this stuff? And I was, no. And it was just really, really weird. And the whole time she had this weird smirk on her face. So a few more questions like that. Then she just folded up her clipboard and just said goodbye and thank you and walked out. Never saw her ever again. Never saw her again. I don't know what that was all about. And I know from later on, years later, I know some people that worked in the census that, you know, I don't think those questions are on any kind of testing battery or questionnaire. I've never experienced something like that since. I've mentioned this to people, they've never heard of anything like that. Now, I explained it to somebody years later about how mysterious that was, and they said, well, maybe it was just some woman that saw you and decided that was her way of trying to get to know you or try to, you know, get a date or something. I'm like, whatever it was, there was no follow-up on it. That's just an awfully weird way to try to meet somebody, is to pass yourself off as a health worker. So I thought that was really, really weird. Not necessarily a ghost story or a haunting, but it's just, in the context of all of the weird people that I've run into over the years, it kind of goes along with, you know, the phantom health workers. I've encountered stuff like that before, not here at this house, but years before. Men in black cases, women in black cases, strange visitors that show up and then you never hear from them ever again. This is a small town, and at that time especially, I would have known most everybody in the neighborhood. Didn't know who she was, and I don't believe that she was from around here. So that was the end of that. Okay, next thing, another odd visitor. Well, one day, this was in the daytime, I was looking out the window, I was on my computer, I looked out the window, and there's a really old lady was walking up the path, straight up to the front door. Now back then you could just walk in the door if it wasn't locked. Now I have automatic locks on the door. Whenever it's closed, it's locked no matter what. It doesn't matter. As soon as you close the door, it locks itself. I've set it up for that. But at the time, if you didn't lock it, you walk right on in. So I saw this woman walk right up, open the door, and walk right into my living room. And I was like, okay. She appeared to be probably 80, if not more than that. And she was by herself. I didn't remember seeing a vehicle outside that she was attached to. She just seemed to have appeared on the street. There's a street in front of me and a busy parking lot. So, and I said, how can I help you? And she says, I'm here to pay my bill. And she waved the bill. And I was like, Bill, I think this is my house. I don't know what you're talking about, Bill. I think she said something, either her electric or her gas bill or something like that she could pay her bill here. I was like, no, there's nothing like that around here that I know of. There is an insurance office over there. And she's, oh, I don't know, and just walked out and left. And then I noticed that she just kind of rounded the bend here and then just poof, gone, vanished. I mean, where did she go? Really, really weird. She just appeared out of nowhere and then just kind of vanished, just sort of just melded into the whatever. I tried to watch her leave and she just kind of just was out of sight at some point. And I've never forgotten that. But later on, I told my parents about it, and my dad said that years before, like decades even before that, decades ago, that at this place that he did, my dad owns this place, this is a family residence, that he did rent this out to like the gas company for a while when they were moving or something like that, and you could pay your bill there, but that would have been probably back in the 70s or 80s, something like that. So where that woman was paying her bill all that time in between then, no idea. Something like that's never happened since then. Never heard any more about it. I just thought that was weird. She just waltzed right into the house like that, wanting to pay a bill. Okay, now the next thing falls into definitely some kind of haunting. Me and some friends of mine, namely, if a lot of you, if you watch the show, you'll know who Cecil Lawson is. He helped me investigate many cases. We'll talk about other cases in the future that we worked on. We documented a lot of that on video back in the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s. We also did a lot in print and on the internet. So anyway, we went to Polksville Cemetery in Bath County, which is, a lot of other investigators have gone there. It's supposed to be the most haunted cemetery in Kentucky. Most haunted cemetery. We went out there one night and we did kind of just the usual investigation. And I did something dumb. I just got really carried away and I invited the spirits. This is in the dark. We took a lot of photographs that night, which showed lots of orbs. I invited any spirit that wished to come forward and speak to me, to speak through me now. If you have anything to say, to speak through me now. And later on I thought that's really dumb to say that, because you're just asking to get possessed. And even Cecil on the way back, he says you were asking for it on that one, man. And I can't remember, nothing really happened at that point. But when I got home that night, I tried to go to sleep, and I had basically all night long footsteps, weird crackling noises, kept waking up in the middle of the night, night terrors, couldn't sleep, off and on, restless. Just, I didn't really see anything, but the noise that I heard, and I would hear this continuously after that, sounded like a person taking bubble wrap, like and pop, like when you pop bubble wrap, or taking it and kind of just like that, pop, pop, poppity pop, crackle, within one of these rooms here. So that was really weird, and that went on several consecutive nights, and then it might die off a little bit, and then a week later it'd start up again, and I'd wake up and hear footsteps, sound like people just kind of scooting along. Like, imagine somebody wearing socks, just going like that, scurrying off when you wake up. And just sound like somebody walking around the house, like somebody, and I know there's nobody who could get in the house without me hearing it. You'd have to break a window, you'd have to do all kinds of stuff to get in. But it sounded like somebody was in the freaking house. Even while I'm wide awake. To the point where you're going like, hello? Huh. Okay, so that eventually subsided and then just poof, gone. And just kind of went away gradually till it was just no big deal anymore. I didn't worry about it. Okay, so the next thing, several years later, a similar case, but unrelated to that. I went to a nearby place that, I don't know if it's still there or not, but for years they had like a new age bookshop kind of thing where you could go and have psychic readings. The woman that ran it was a real nice lady. She seemed to be pretty good like at tarot and psychic stuff, that type of thing. You could go get like a tarot reading. But she did, like I said, it wasn't really tarot, it was like angel cards, or she claimed to be a green witch, she told me. A green witch, kind of like a white witch. That's what she told me that she was, I remember it. And she seemed like, a pretty nice lady, and I'm sure she's very well intentioned and everything like that. Nothing bad, nothing sad, anything like that. But I went there for a reading one time, and then I went back. And one day I was in there just looking through like occult books and new age stuff. And I always like natural soap, not store-bought like soap, but like natural handmade soap. And I saw a whole stack of it there for a very cheap price, like, $4 for like, like 10, 12 bars of soap. It was like a closeout. So I said, oh, handmade soap. I just bought it all up. And I don't know if I bought anything else, maybe some books or something like that. So I took it home and I got one bar out and I started to use it at one point. And I did notice that when you unwrap the bar, there was a little piece of paper with it that said that each bar of soap comes with a little blessing that they have blessed it. And I thought that was kind of weird. That was kind of strange, I thought. Like, oh well. And little did I know that that was going to be part of something that was going to happen. And I think it's not so much as a blessing as so much as a curse, because within a day or so, I had one of the biggest poltergeist outbreaks that I've ever seen in a long time here at the place. Same kind of things as before. Footsteps at night and the weird crackling sound and waking up at night, night terrors, hearing noises, hearing voices that will wake you up, and just banging and beating around. It sounds like the wind is hitting the windows, and there's no wind, there's nothing going on. Crazy stuff. Shadowy figures. Just the usual shadow people type things, which I haven't seen that in a really, really long time. I used to see shadow people a lot when I lived at my parents' place where I was growing up, but I don't usually see that too much anymore. This has been about 5 years ago when this particular incident happened. So, and it just went on and on for weeks. And the thing is that my life had been going really well up until that point. I'd gotten a new job. Things were fine financially. I was happy. I didn't have any problems. And this craziness was going on at night. I couldn't sleep. And it wasn't so much scary. It was just like very much an interruption. But it started to really wear me down, and I've had enough of it. And I was like, the only thing I can think of to trace all this back to was that damn soap that I bought. But I thought, that's so stupid. Soap can't cause a haunting. That's ignorant. And I thought about that piece of paper that said there was a blessing that went with each bar. So I just decided I said, I'm just going to just bite the bullet and just take all this soap and just throw it in the dumpster. And I gathered it all up, even the bar that I'd been using, and put it in a sack and chucked it. End of the poltergeist outbreak. There was no more craziness, no more noises, nothing. It ended instantly. So, thumbs up on that. I realized that was part of the problem. It makes you wonder, And I was thinking to myself, the woman that owns that shop would never do something intentionally to harm someone or cause them distress. Use any kind of occult powers to influence people in that way. I'm just sure that she wouldn't. But sometimes, people mess with powers beyond their knowledge and beyond their very scope of what their practice is, and not realize it. They're well-intentioned people, they're religious people, but things happen. So, and recently I found out, I mentioned this to somebody, and they said that, they know that woman, and that the people that work for her, the kids that work in her store, are known to do some really weird stuff and some strange practices, a little bit more on the darker side. And I'm like, I see now. I've never ever been back to that store ever again, and I will not go back. Not that I'm superstitious or anything, but I mean, you just have to wonder. When you've seen so many strange situations like I have, it just not going back. It's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk. Okay, so that brings us to the next situation. Now, can books be haunted? Can books be cursed? I wonder. That is the subject of part 3 of this video. I don't want to make this too long of a video because I could go on all night with this. But I will do a part 3, and it involves another scary case that involves a book on witchcraft. And we'll get to that in the next video. So, see you soon. I'll do a follow-up, part 3. Hit like and subscribe. I'll see you soon.